Hey everybody, this is Daniel from fitnessboner.com, and today I'm going to be taking you through a total body beginner style workout. And we're going to start off with a little bit of a warm up, then we're going to go through an AB format of one exercise and another exercise just working back and forth. We're going to do 2 sets of each, then we're going to move on to another group of 2. We're going to run through, we've got about 4 groups to go through, and once we're done with those 4 groups, then we're going to go down to a little bit of a cool down, and then we'll be finished. Now this workout doesn't use any equipment whatsoever, so you don't have to worry about keeping track of any equipment while we're going through this, unless you want these exercises to be just a little bit more difficult. So with that said, let's go ahead and get ready to start into our warm-up. For the warm-up, we're going to be going from one exercise right into the next without any break, without any gap whatsoever. We're going to be doing each one for about 30 seconds. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me get my timer going here. We're starting off, we're trying to get the entire body done or warmed up, so we're going to start off with that chest first. So it's going to be nice and slow, push straight out in front of you, and slowly pull right back again, actually using those muscles to kind of work against yourself. So slowly press it forward, slowly pull it back, contract those muscles, nice slow controlled motion. Don't move too quickly. You can limit that range of motion at first if those joints start feeling or do feel a little bit too tight. Just start slowly trying to increase that range of motion as you do repetitions. Just keep going through. You got just a few seconds left. And let that one relax. We're going to do a nice big circle with one arm. Pause at the bottom, reverse it back around. Again, start with a relatively small range of motion and then start pushing it larger and larger as you can. Keep those lungs open. Just focus on trying to get as big of a circle as you possibly can with that arm. Bring it up across in front of that chest as close as possible, then stretching it back behind you as much as you can each time. Switch over the other arm, and same thing on the other arm. Nice big circle, pause behind you, reverse it back in front. Draw it up as close to your chest as you can, stretch it back behind you as far as possible, pause at the bottom, back around. Remember, never let that arm be out of control. You don't want to just swing your arm around. You always want to have it under control. Contracting those muscles nice and tight. Getting that blood flowing to that shoulder joint. And let it relax. We're going to start working on that torso. So nice, slow, controlled motion. Round, making a nice round circle. Pausing the bottom, reversing back around, rounding that back. Crunching forward a little bit in the front, then stretching back a little bit behind you, trying to keep those hips pretty much straight up and down. We're going to work on those hips in just a second. This one's just for that torso, so those hips stay pretty much stationary. And now we're going to do the same thing, but with those hips. So chest and hips stay locked, straight down from those hips. Nice big circle, but without bending that torso. You're just trying to work on those hips. Trying to stretch it around, nice big circle with those hips. Oops, sorry, we're supposed to be switching. So at the bottom, switch directions, reverse back around, pause, and back around the opposite direction. And let that relax. We're going to start working on that hip joint a little bit more. So bring the knees straight up, open it up out to the side, drop it down, and bring it back in front. If you don't have as much range of motion as me, that's perfectly fine. Just push as far as you possibly can. Like I said, you can always start with a smaller range of motion, then start trying to work a little bit larger as you go. So trying to draw that knee up as high as you possibly can, out to the side, back up again, and back down. Same thing on the other side. So same thing. Draw that knee up nice and high, out to the side, down, right back up again, and back to the center. Try to keep that torso perfectly straight up and down, try not to lean. Just focusing on controlling that leg. That calf muscles actually have to be working as well to hold you up balanced. Just keep it going. Nice big full range of motion. Next one is going to be kind of a crunch motion down towards your toe. So you're going to lift your leg up, crunch down towards that toe, other leg, crunch down towards that toe. Just keep alternating back and forth. Try to get as much range of motion out as you can. If you can't keep your leg perfectly straight, that's okay. If you can't get your leg up quite to hip height, that's okay as well. Reaching straight forward rather than down towards your foot. So it's just coming up, or bring that foot up as high as you can, and reach as high or straight out forward with those hands. Let that relax. Go out to a relatively wide stance with those feet. So a little bit of a squat off to the right, and same thing off to the left, just back and forth. Turn those toes out just slightly. Start warming up those legs just a little bit. Or move on to a jumping jack for our last one. Try to get those lungs open just a little bit more. Try to get that blood pushing around a little bit more. A few more seconds. And into that jumping jack. So nice and small at first. Then we're going to start slowly speeding up. Straighten those arms out a little bit more. Start moving a little bit faster. Trying to get that heart rate up a little bit more. Nice rigid arm, nice rigid leg, nice quick snap. Never let those arms or legs just kind of swing out of control. They're always nice and tight, under control the entire time. And let it relax. All right, that is the end of our warm-up, which means we're starting into our routine here in just a second. Now that we're nice and warmed up, let's go ahead and get started with our regular routine. We're going to be doing 45 seconds on and 15 seconds off in an A-B format. So we're going to be doing one exercise, then another, then back to the original one, second one again, and then we'll move to a group of another 2 exercises. We've got 4 groups to go through. It's going to take us a little over 15 minutes to get through this section of the routine, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me get my timer going. Our first exercise is going to be just a traditional push-up. So go ahead and drop down on the ground. I'm going to show you the easier version of this one first. So off of those knees, just dropping down nice and low, press it right back up. If you can't go for the full 45 seconds, that's perfectly fine. If you can do a harder version, go up onto those toes. If you can, do half on those toes, half on those knees, or wherever those arms start giving out on you. Basically, just try and do the hardest version you can for as long as you can. Just keep that form nice and clean, back nice and flat. Straight line from shoulder to ankle if you're doing that full version. Straight line from shoulder to knee for that half version. Keep those core muscles nice and tight. Nice controlled motion. And let that relax. Got a 15-second break to get ready for the next one, which is going to be a regular toe touch crunch. So go ahead and lay down flat on your back. Feet straight up in the air. Try to keep those legs as straight as you can. Hands right above those shoulders. Crunch up towards those toes. Back down. A little bit of a gap between those shoulder blades and the ground. Right back up. If those hamstrings are really, really tight, then you can bend those knees. But try to keep those legs as straight as you can. Exhale on the way up. Inhale on the way down. Just to make it a little bit easier. Never let those abs relax. You always want to keep them contracted. When you drop back down, don't let them completely release. They're always contracted. Try to get up to those toes as high as you possibly can. Every single repetition. 3, 2, 1, and let it relax. All right, let's start back over again with those push-ups. So again, do the hardest version you possibly can, a full version. Or if you want to do like a wide push-up, that's fine as well to make it even harder. Or a single leg push-up, half and half. Whatever you want to do. As hardest version you can for as close to the full time limit as possible. But when you get to that point where you can't go any further, try to find an easier version rather than quitting. So don't just completely stop. Always look for something a little bit easier so you can just keep going a little bit longer. Nice flat back. Nice, slow, controlled motion. Keep those lungs open. Never hold your breath. Almost done. And let that relax. Back to those toe touch crunches. Last round of this one. Got two new exercises after this one. Lay flat on that back, legs up in the air. And start up. Exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. Remember, always keep those abdominal muscles contracted. Never let them release. And let it release. All right, moving on to our next two exercises, which is going to be a traditional squat with no weight and a Russian twist. So back down on the ground again, rotating. All right, traditional squat, feet just about shoulder width apart. Nice and slow, drop down. Right back up again. Don't lock those knees out completely. A little bit of a bend in that knee. Right back down again as low as is comfortable. If you want to make it more difficult, you can switch by doing a single leg squat down. Let that leg help you back up. Single leg squat down. Other leg help you back up. Or for the hardest version, just do a full single leg squat. Just alternating back and forth each one. Otherwise, just a traditional squat. Both feet on the ground. Keep that back nice and flat. Try to mimic the angle on your shins with the angle on your chest. Don't worry about those knees going over those toes. As long as the angle of your shin and chest are the same, you're exactly where you need to be. And let that relax. Go and sit down on the ground. Got a Russian twist next. So this one's sitting up on their tailbone. Lean back slightly. Hands directly in front of your chest. And rotate. Nice and slow off to the side. Rotate back the other direction. And back again. So the easier version is sitting nice and straight up and tall. The harder you want it to be, the more you're going to lean back. The further you lean back, the more you have to extend those legs out to help you keep counterweight so you don't tip over backwards. You want to make sure that back is perfectly straight. You don't want to round and rotate like this. Keep that back pulled up underneath you, like you're trying to shove your chest up towards the ceiling. Just keep rotating as much as you can. Keep those hands directly in front of that chest. Make sure you're not swinging your arms left to right. And let that relax. All right, back up for another round of squats. So again, whichever version squat you want to do to make it harder if you need to. You can always use weight above your shoulders if you want also. And start up. Nice, low, deep squat. Again, keep that back perfectly flat. You want to make sure you're getting nice and low as is comfortable on your knee and your hip joint. Make sure you don't let that lower back round. Make sure you're keeping that shin and that chest relatively the same angle the entire time. If you need to do this in front of a mirror to help you judge where you are as far as that range of motion goes, as far as that orientation from chest to shin, it comes in handy to kind of give you an idea of where you need to be, to kind of teach yourself on what that feels like to be in the right position. So don't hesitate to do this in front of a mirror if you need to. All right, down on the ground. Another round of that Russian twist. Nice flat back, hands out in front of that chest. Lean back as far as you can control. Rotate left to right. If you want to make this exercise harder, pick those feet up off the ground. Just makes those legs and hip flexors have to engage that much more. Makes those abs have to do more work. Nice slow rotation. Keep those lungs open, don't hold your breath. Get that back pulled up underneath you. 10 seconds left. And let that relax. All right, let's move on to our next two exercises, which is going to be a supine push up, so laying flat on your back, and then an oblique crunch, so laying on your side, crunching up. So supine push up, laying flat on your back, elbows out shoulder width, or out from your shoulders, press into those elbows, lift that chest up. The easiest version is hinging from your rib cage. It's kind of rocking up, using those abdominal muscles to kind of help crunch you up a little bit. If you have more strength in your rhomboids across that back, then you're gonna hinge from those hips. So you bring that lower back up off the ground as well. Keep those abs tight, but don't crunch forward. Squeeze as tight as you possibly can. Again, harder version is keeping that back perfectly flat from straight line from shoulder to hip. Otherwise, bend to that waist. All right, got an oblique crunch next. We're doing this with a leg raise. So nice full extension out, straight line with your body, arms at a 45-degree angle. Starting on your left side first. Right hand up on top of that thigh. Crunch that shoulder to your hip and reach down towards those toes. Back down, hover those feet, but don't let them completely touch. Crunch it right back up, get that shoulder up nice and high, get those knees up nice and high. Try to keep all of your weight in that torso, so more from the base of your rib cage to your hip than actually up on your hip. So if you feel yourself coming up like this, you're going too high, you're putting too much pressure on your hip. So stay back a little bit more onto your waist. Try to keep those hips tilted forward. It's going to feel like you limit your range of motion a little bit. All you're doing is making those obliques have to work harder, making your abs have to work less to focus on those obliques. And let that relax. Going back to that supine push-up, so laying flat on your back again. Arms out really nice and wide. Again, either hinging from your rib cage or hinging from those hips. And start up. Keep those lungs open. Don't hold your breath. Keep those core muscles nice and tight. Again, if you're doing the half version where you're hinging from your rib cage, you can use those abdominal muscles as kind of a little bit of a crunch to help if you don't have the strength through your upper body. If you do have the strength through your upper body, then only press with those elbows, keep those abdominal muscles completely relaxed. Otherwise, harder version is that full extension, keep that back nice and flat. Bring that lower back up as well. And let that relax. All right, back onto that left side. Doing another round of that side oblique crunch with that leg raise. So again, 45-degree angle on that left arm, on that left side. Right hand up on top of that thigh. Start it up, crunch up, bring those legs up nice and high, shoulder up nice and high. Again, keep that weight back on that waist, not on that hip. Try to keep up on that hip as much as you can, and those hips perpendicular to the ground. So keep those hips rolled forward just a little bit. Feel like you're trying to reach to the back of your foot rather than to the front, and that should help you keep your hips forward a little bit. Keep those lungs open. Nice tight squeeze every single time. Try to bring that shoulder down into that hip as tightly as you possibly can. Almost done. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and stand back up. Got 2 more exercises to go. This is our last group. We're going to be doing just a traditional lunge. So standing up nice and straight and tall. You step out with 1 foot at a time, alternating every single repetition. So step out, down, back up, step out, down, and back up. If you have a limited range of motion, you're not very strong yet, just do a nice small range of motion, just out just a little bit, with a little bit of a drop in those hips. If you have the strength in those legs, and take a really nice long step, drop all the way down so that knee barely touches the ground, and back up. The main thing you want to focus on is not letting your weight shift forward onto that front leg. You want to make sure you're keeping your body straight up and down. And as you take that step, you go straight down between those feet rather than going forward over your front leg. You want to make sure that rear leg does half the work. And let it relax. So back down on the ground again. We're going to be doing another side oblique crunch, this time on the right side. So right hand kicked out at 45, left hand up on top of your thigh. Same exact motion you did on the other side, this time on the right. So crunch it up, feeling that oblique on the top side, that left oblique have to do all the work. Lift those legs nice and high, crunching that shoulder down towards those hips. Keep those lungs open. Again, try to keep your weight back in your waist rather than up on your hip. Nice tight squeeze. Now this is a traditional Pilates exercise, so if you want to do a little bit more of the Pilates style breathing with it, it's going to be exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. Exhale through your mouth, inhale through your nose. And let them relax when stand back up. One more round of those lunges. All right, so remember, try to take as long of a step as you possibly can. And start it. Nice long step, straight down between those feet. Back up. Same thing on the other side. Again, if you need to, take a shorter step. Don't go quite so low as you drop that knee down to the ground if you don't have quite the strength or the range of motion in those legs. If you do, however, make sure you're really pushing yourself to take a nice long step, dropping that knee all the way down to the ground. Keep those lungs open, keep that torso straight up and down. Even though you're not really using those core muscles really heavily for this, make sure you have them all contracted nice and tight. And let it relax. One more of that side oblique crunch. An oblique crunch with a leg raise. So out on that right side. Right hand kick forward, left hand up on top of that thigh. And start out, crunch up nice and high. Back down. Again, for that breathing, if you want that Pilates style breathing, it's exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. Exhale through your mouth, inhale through your nose. Otherwise, the main thing you want to focus on is just not holding your breath. It doesn't matter when you inhale or exhale. It doesn't matter what exercise you're doing. As long as you're keeping your lungs open, your diaphragm is going to have to contract the entire time. Your obliques, your abdominal muscles, and your lower back are all going to have to stay nice and tight to help you breathe normally. Makes those core muscles have to work a lot harder, but also gives you a lot more tone and a lot more control out of those muscles. And let it relax. All right, good job. As the end of this routine, all we have left to do is our cool down. So we'll start that up here in just a second. So we hit all of our major muscle groups through our entire body for this one. So we want to make sure that we go through and take the time to stretch each one of those muscles out. Kind of slowly let your heart rate drop back down, slowly let that blood kind of flush everything out of your muscle tissue. So we're going to be doing each one of these again for about 30 seconds. So our first one is going to be for that upper body, then we'll start working our way down. So we want to focus on that chest first. So if you have an open wall next to you, go and grab that open wall. Otherwise, you can use a door frame or a really heavy piece of furniture. You're just going to place that hand on that wall and rotate away from that hand. Make sure your fingers are facing back behind you. That arm's nice and straight. You should feel that stretch through the front of your chest. If you don't, if you're feeling it more in your bicep, then roll that arm until that stretch focuses just on that chest. Just keep holding it just a little bit longer. 5 more seconds and we're going to switch sides. And go ahead and switch sides. So other hand, palms facing or palm on the wall, fingers facing back behind you. Rotate that chest away. Again, you want to feel this only in your chest. If you're feeling it more in your bicep, then just roll that arm just a little bit until you're feeling it more in just that chest. Just keep leaning away, constantly trying to get a little more of a stretch to this. If it starts to dissipate on you a little bit, keep pushing. And let that relax. Grab that elbow, pull across in front of your chest, squeezing across. So we just did our chest, now we're doing our rhomboid across that shoulder blade. Grab that elbow, squeeze across. Depending on how flexible those rhomboids are, that muscle to the upper back, you might not feel this stretch hardly at all. Most people have relatively loose rhomboids just because if they roll their shoulders forward a lot. So you might not feel this, but still you want to get that good stretch in there. Or try to anyway. Go ahead and switch sides. Same thing on the other side. Grab the elbow, pull across in front of that chest. You're constantly trying to pull across, constantly trying to get that stretch. Again, like I said, if you're really not feeling a whole lot of a stretch, you might just have really limber rhomboids as is. But you're always trying to get just a little bit more range of motion out of it. So really try to squeeze forward with that chest, kind of pulling that shoulder forward across in front of your body to stretch that upper back. Almost done. And let it relax. We're going to do just a regular straight leg hang. So start off with that lower back first. You're just going to roll those shoulders over forward. Keep those hips relatively straight up and down. Round that back over. Kind of stretching that lower back. Just keep those lungs open, breathing normally. And go ahead and go all the way down towards those toes. Keep those legs relatively straight. If you've got really tight hamstrings, you can bend those knees a little bit if you want to, but you want to try to get as much of a stretch to that hamstring as possible. So straightening those legs out, locking those knees out is going to get you that extra stretch. So don't worry about touching your toes. The main thing is trying to keep those legs relatively straight. Stretch it forward. And let it relax. Again, if you have a wall handy, go ahead and lean up against that wall. Otherwise, you can use your balance for this. One foot comes up back behind you. Squeeze that heel to your butt as close as is comfortable. Pull that knee back behind you. Keep that chest straight and tall. You want to feel that stretch to the front of your hip, but primarily through the front of that quadricep, or the front of that thigh, that quadricep muscle. So again, if you and you can grab on the back of a chair, lean on a piece of furniture, up against a wall, it doesn't matter, just help you keep that balance. Otherwise, just stand free form. Go ahead and switch over to the other side. Other foot comes up back behind you. Squeeze that heel to your butt. Press that knee back behind you. Torso straight up and tall. Keep those lungs open. Just a little bit longer. And go ahead and let that relax. We're going to go ahead and sit down. We're going to do one more hamstring stretch. So both those feet are out in front of you. Sitting down and doing a hamstring stretch and standing and doing a hamstring stretch are actually relatively different. So keep stretching down towards those toes. Keep those legs relatively straight. Flex those toes back towards you. Contracting that muscle to the front of that shin. Forcing that hamstring and that calf muscle to tighten up a little bit more. Just keep stretching down towards it. And let it relax. We're in this last one, we're going to do half and half. So one leg up over top, squeeze it in nice and tight. Just a little bit longer. And go and switch sides. Cross that knee over top, grab behind that thigh, pull it in. Should be feeling that stretch on the leg you have crossed over top, so that glute of that leg that's crossed over. And let it relax. All right, we got through your warm-up, we got through the routine, and we got through the cool-down, which means this workout is complete. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.